Rogers TV viewer response line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
What kind of show do you want to see on Rogers TV? What interests you? Log on to rogerstv.com, fill out a show proposal, and tell us about your segment idea. We want to know what you want to see. Rogers TV, only on Rogers.
The regulars, the guys who keep this place in business. Last week, they had something to celebrate. Jason had just finished university. So they toasted his profs, his TAs, his old roommates. Well, they toasted just about everyone. But I worry about and take care of my guys. So even when I know they're not driving, sometimes that means bringing them a little surprise. And then they had a drink to me.
Brought to you by Smart Serve Ontario and Arrive Alive, Drive Sober.
This is Rogers TV.
Hello and welcome to the Rogers TV COVID-19 show. I'm Carol Merton, and before I welcome our guest to the program, for those of you who watch the program, you'll know I like to say a few words just at the very beginning. Here in Grey Bruce, we continue to be in the yellow protect zone, and we are all working together to stop this virus and the variants from spreading. This will seek every opportunity it can find to spread by finding loopholes. Let's not give it that chance. This is hard work for all of us. It is hard to be isolated, and it's hard to have our daily routines disrupted. We are all weary. However, there is good news on the horizon. Hopefully, the vaccine program will continue to roll out in Grey Bruce to be able to open up things even more than they are now. On February 22nd, 2021, the Grey Bruce Health Unit confirmed that the first dose of COVID-19 vaccine has been given to all residents, staff, and essential caregivers who consented to the vaccine in all 19 long-term care facilities and 7 high-risk retirement homes in Grey Bruce. The first round of vaccine to these residents, caregivers, and staff ensures a significant milestone in preventing the transmission of the COVID-19 virus in settings where the risk of complications can be serious. In addition, those who were first to get their vaccine in January have now received their second dose. So far in Grey Bruce, 3,759 doses of the vaccine have been given. There is hope in the next few months that we will continue to move through the province's vaccine administration framework and as more vaccine becomes available to those who choose to be vaccinated. For now, though, please do not relax your vigilance. Continue to wash your hands, wear a mask, and definitely distance. The sacrifices that we make each and every day are helping to prevent the spread of COVID-19. We are saving lives. Thank you to all the community who are working hard to prevent the spread of COVID-19. And I also want to thank our first guest who's here to join us today, Paul Eichhorn from Sweetwater Music Festival. Thank you. We chatted early on before, didn't we, in COVID-19?
Yes, Carol, I remember, I think it was early last spring as we all began this journey, and it was really interesting at that point because we didn't know where we were going to go, and I think Edwin was on with me from California. He's actually up here quarantining because he's doing a piece in Ottawa, so he's been having a fun year. But you know, we went on and made things happen, and music did happen in 2020, and it will again in 2021. So you just gotta adjust and keep on moving.
Music plays on, right?
Exactly.
Can you describe your role with the Sweetwater Music Festival and just take us from where you are now, because I understand that you've really done a lot in the last while around promoting music and helping people during the COVID-19.
Yes, Carol, we certainly have, and my job as general manager is really to help Edwin and the rest of the organization bring together elements to keep this music journey happening through a very challenging time. So last year, when we were in touch with you in the spring, we had started some online programming, but then we needed to address what were we going to do about our September, which is our big festival event. And we opted to postpone it because we knew we couldn't do what we normally do. But what we did was we came up with an alternative programming stream called Sweetwater Surreal, which began late August, and it's going to wrap up actually later in March, end of March. So because we kind of started a little later last year than normal with our programming, we didn't have a spring concert, we had to cancel that. We opted to kind of extend things into 2021 a bit. And so what this multifaceted music experience really is not just live, which is what most music organizations do. It's live. We brought a combination. We were able to do some live in September, which was amazing. 11 concerts in September, mini pop-up concerts around Grey Bruce, well attended. People would just love them in a safe situation, of course, outside, small groups, with all the health guidelines. It worked amazingly. It was a little cold, as you recall, in the third week of September. So that was a challenge for the performers and for some of the audience, but people were just happy to hear live music. And then we did a live music concert with the very accomplished vocalist Misha Bruger-Gossman at Hartwood Hall in late October as well. And that was also our first live stream. And this is where the element of online and live, and that's what Surreal has been. And now over these colder months, we've got some new programming again online. And so we really have provided that experience starting pretty much in the spring with some initial programming when we talked and extended right through till today. So we really feel people need it. And I think it's pretty hard, as you noted in your opening, people are locked down. It's a challenging time for everybody.
I know, although we're Skyping, my understanding is the producer is going to be trying to play some music in the background sometime during our conversation. We won't get to appreciate it, but the audience will. So if music is playing, it actually is because of the performers and what you have just described.
Exactly, yes.
So help me understand what it took to be able to stream music, because there is a significant difference in live performing and streamed performing, correct?
Yes, so I mean, there's different elements some organizations are doing. So ours is kind of a mixture between pre-recorded, edited pieces, which is what we're doing this winter. For the most part, we have some live Zoom experiences to interact with musicians. The live stream we did in October, we had a great local supplier, CTRE, which has got a new headquarters downtown in Owen Sound, an amazing firm, and they are doing some just unbelievable stuff. So they had this little setup at Hartwood in the back room, and it was the equivalent of essentially like a mini studio. I mean, with 6 cameras, great sound, and we had it live streamed, available to really anybody around the world. And that's the thing that's really the beauty of this now, is that we are allowing people not just in Grey Bruce and in parts of Ontario that normally could get up to Owen Sound area or Meaford to see our concerts. You can now enjoy it. So let's say somebody who moved away, who enjoyed Sweetwater years ago, now they can go online and enjoy the concerts and watch videos and be part of that. So this is an opportunity. So I think what we've seen is COVID was a challenge, but it's presented new opportunities. And we actually believe a lot of this, what we're doing because of COVID, is going to become the norm. So we're obviously going to go back to as much live as we can do when we can. But we want to continue that online experience and allow that greater audience beyond our local area.
And that, as you say, is an opportunity to have the music shared and spread. But you'll also be able to get performers from further afield as well then.
Well, yes. I mean, in theory, then let's say if there's somebody who was, I don't know, maybe they're based in Europe somewhere, in Asia, maybe they can't travel that easily. If we were doing an online type situation, you could bring them in that way, and I'm sure that's going to be a new reality. I noticed there was an article in the Globe and Mail today about a new system developed by a Canadian, which is actually allowing performers to perform online in sync, because there's a bit of an issue with lag time, and people may notice that on some of these Skypes, right? Because there's a lag time between the internet in different places, and he's figured a way to do this where it's almost like playing with them in the same room. The sound is going to be almost synced, and that's within the past year. People are developing technologies. I mean, as Rogers has found out, and everybody, all these new technologies are coming online, and that's going to be exciting for people like us in the performing arts.
Absolutely. And not to have that lag is significant, actually. That's huge. And certainly critical for music as well. So from the information that you shared, you talk about virtual music programming. You're going to be continuing it until the end of March. What's after that? I mean, we're still kind of in a not quite there, opened up. What are your thoughts about how you move forward?
So because of our experience last year, we realized you have to have kind of two strategies. And so the strategy we had going into that summer situation was, we don't know how September will be. So we were prepared to be either doing kind of a half and half situation, or mini concerts outside. We could, if we had to, we could go to just online. And so we're going to kind of approach this year similarly. Now in the spring, we hope to do a live concert in hopefully early June, hopefully maybe at Heartwood, as we normally do. We're going to kind of see how things go. There's a lot of touch and go situations right now, as we all we're dealing with, and we are doing again our Next Wave showcase for young performers. Last year we opted to change that to an online platform, and we ended up having 10 performers perform over 2 weeks midsummer. We had an amazing response. They had way more people see them than when we did the live one in 2019, which is interesting, right? Because more people could tune in online. So we opted to do that again this year because we thought, this is actually a great platform, and you can also bring in young people from a wider area again. So it's again how that online option opens up opportunities. And our September festival, we again hope to have at least a couple of indoor concerts. We hope there's some great large venues in Owen Sound, and if the numbers permit, we figure somewhere where there's a little more room. We'll make sure people are spaced out. We're not going to cram in people for standing room only. Even if that was allowed, I think for comfort levels, we want people to be feeling they can go and feel safe. So that's going to be a priority again. But we are going to do outdoor pop-ups. We're going to do a lot of things of that nature, because we also found we've made a lot of new friends, because people, will be walking down the street in Owen Sound. We had something next to the Great Gallery on the main street in Owen Sound. They have a little garden area you might have seen. They're doing amazing things there. And we had concerts there, and all of a sudden people walking along going, "What is this?" And we go, "We're Sweetwater, blah, blah, blah." And they go, "Oh, we've never heard of you. We didn't know this even existed." Now, we've been around for 17 years. But because we were outside of the theater, of the concert hall, we opened ourselves up. And we had, I think, about 100 people at Harrison Park for a pop-up on a Saturday out by the band shell there. We had, I think, about 75 at the farmer's market on Sunday morning, 11 o'clock. It was again, Sunday was a beautiful day. We had our final concert that afternoon down by the river. There was canoeists coming up and boaters who were watching it because we were right next to the river where we were performing. So again, there was that interaction that you would never have at the Roxy, which we love, and the Georgian Shores. So these are the opportunities that come up when you have to think outside of the box. So I guess that's what we're going to seize with that momentum. We feel we can do that again. And I think there's a lot of new things we'll probably be trying this year again as well.
Certainly surprising. You wouldn't have expected that potentially, or even moving out to the community. my question is to you, how can the community support Sweetwater? What do you need from the community to be able to support this venture and the musicians?
Well, I mean, obviously, it's kind of a cooperative situation with musicians or with the community and our musicians and everybody. I mean, we want to offer this entertainment and this art form and that experience for people because they need that for their soul right now, right? I think Edwin says that, our artistic director, Edwin Huizinga, he says, people need this to nourish their souls and their minds, because it's hard when you're put into this bizarre situation we're in. None of us have had to deal with this. I don't think there's many people who were around during the Spanish flu epidemic and pandemic, and if they are, they're very old. But so this is a novel thing for everybody. From the community, I mean, obviously, we want people who will come out. And, again, like we had in September, we had an amazing response. And a lot of these are our longtime patrons. But again, we had a lot of new people. We also, this year, we couldn't sell a lot of tickets. And this is going to be another challenge. And this is a big problem for live entertainment right now, is that you can't sell the tickets you normally do. Like, the Roxy's in the same boat, the Georgian Bay Symphony, a lot of arts organizations, because you can't have 400 or 300 or 700. So you have to find alternatives. We were very fortunate. A lot of people came forward with donations. And at some of our pop-ups, we just, had it open. You could attend. But we were amazed by the generosity of the community who just said, we want to make sure that we can support your organization and the musicians. And that's a huge thing for us. We're doing all what we're doing is because we want musicians to have work because the musicians have been hit hard. And Edwin, who is a musician as well, has had, he said how many gigs last year were gone. Mm-hmm. And this continues. And that's hard for these people. This is their livelihood, right? This isn't for fun. So we want to be there to support them. And so if our community is behind us as well, they're not only, of course, helping Sweetwater, but they're helping the artists. Because of these artists, there are artists now who have actually opted to get out of music. These are talented people. And I've read stories where they've said, I have to make a living. I can't wait. So they're just abandoning their art form. And, if we do that, we may not have symphonies and orchestras and actors and everything. I mean, I may be being a little over the top here, but we're going to lose certainly some people. And that's not a good thing. So let's work together. Let's make the show happen. And I think it's a win-win for everybody.
So certainly encouraging the community to donate as they are able. When you have your pop-ups, I'm assuming there's a place that maybe people can donate money. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so what we did was we had different ways of doing it. We had kind of something, you could kind of, for some of the concerts you had to reserve a spot. And so then we would kind of say a suggested donation. And then people could, go on to some of our online options. You could give us a donation on site if you wanted. So that was a way of at least kind of ensuring that we had some support system for our organization, and that the musicians we brought in. I mean, 3 of the musicians came from other parts of Canada. And that was great that we could get them in. We didn't have a large group in September, and then we had Misha Bruger-Gossman in October. But we've also, I think, how many artists? About 6-7 artists that we've now employed on the online portion of our programming. And these have ranged from Canadians to even some artists in the United States. Again, we had planned to have a few American artists come up originally for our festival. Well, they couldn't get across the border. And so we are now at least allowing them that opportunity. And a lot of them are younger artists. So they're very excited to have the outlet to be able to get and perform and share. And they all said they really wanted to be here, of course, in September, but it's just how it is.
Yeah. What do the artists say about the difference between performing live and then performing, obviously using the technology? What are you hearing back from them?
Well, I think for a lot of the artists, it depends. If they're doing it where they're sitting in their studio space or in their home or wherever they are, and they're performing, playing violin, I mean, it's kind of on their own. And most of these performers tend to play as either a trio, a duo, a quartet, a sextet or even, a chamber music group or as a symphony or as an orchestra. So the collaboration is huge for them. So I think that's I think one area, I think for a lot of them, it's the camaraderie to hang out. I noticed that when the performers come, they love that, because some of them are friends, some of them have never met, but they enjoy that interaction. And that's why they come to our festival. And I think that's true of Summerfolk. Any of these music events, they have that, it's kind of like a reunion. It's a reunion situation, and they really enjoy that. So that's a tough one. That's a tough one, because you can't replicate that online. You can have a Zoom, but as you know, a bunch of us did that at Christmas. I mean, it wasn't like being in a room and sharing the turkey, right? So.
That's true. What you're really describing then is the musicians are a community as well, and they, as a community, they need to be able to connect and gather together, and it is tough with the technology. I noticed that there were, in the information you provided, there are some programmings. You talked about new episodes of Front Row, and I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about some of the musical offerings that have come forward.
Yeah, well, I'll just do quickly. Front Row we launched actually not long after we talked to you back in last June. We had the musician Jaron Freeman Fox was supposed to be playing at Heartwood. He, of course, couldn't. So we gave an opportunity to basically sit down in front of a camera like this and talk about himself and his career. And then he performed a piece. And so the concept is, it's like you're sitting in the front row seat, right? And that's what we've done. So we've had them with, I think we're up to about 8 artists now. The 9th one will be coming out next week. And, we've had everybody from some, younger up and coming artists to Misha Bruger-Gossman. And she's one of them. You can find it online right now. And I think it's really interesting because it's a way of, again, getting to know these musicians, but in a way that normally you don't, right? Because we don't even do that at our festival normally. You get to hear them play. You don't have them opening up and saying, well, I got a little violin when I was 8 years old, and that's what started the journey for me. I mean, it's really interesting to hear those stories. And so the Front Row is the one piece. And then we launched, I guess we did an initial one with Jaron in late June, but we really launched this in early January with Keith Ham and Julie Hirvish, who were at our Surreal event in September, Into the Music. And Into the Music is an interactive situation and more of a conversation, so the one is more of a static where you're watching it, kind of like you watch a performance. This one, you can get in on a Zoom. You have to register in advance. And we've had, between kind of 30 to 40 people in on these. It's a nice group. Mixed group of people. And then Edwin, our artistic director, he moderates and hosts these. And he basically has a nice chat with the artists. Sometimes they might play a little bit, and people can ask questions. And again, we've had some really interesting topics come up, and now we're actually putting in kind of an audio podcast version of those Zooms, because the video is a little bit up and down on those. So, but the audio is actually quite good. So we actually have those available. So people, if they don't register, they can go back and listen to them. And they're about an hour long. And again, these are a valuable resource, I think, for a lot of music students. And we're hoping to interact with local educators to have these resources. They can get a sense of, learn about musicians. What's their life? What is their life? What is it like? What are the challenges? What is the reality of a musician today? I think for young people, when we want them to get into this business, they need that information. So this is another side of this that's a great plus. So we're going to kind of leverage this as not just an entertainment or as something that is something to give something to do. It actually is something that could become a learning resource moving forward for a lot of people.
In many ways, you're almost describing a mentoring where it's a learning, but it's also mentoring, where musicians can share their experiences, but also their lessons on how to rise to the occasion and overcome some challenges. And what an amazing opportunity to be mentored by a variety of musicians, right? Not just one or.
Right. And the great thing is, we've had a range of musicians, people who are, kind of have accomplished so much and are at the height of their careers, like Misha Bruger-Gossman, Mark Distribet, who was at our September event as well, is more of a veteran violinist. But then, some of the ones we're highlighting in the next couple of weeks are younger musicians. Kyle Miller is a younger musician who plays early music out of the U.S. He's on the latest Front Row. So I think it's nice because it's not just about the ones who have, really done a lot and they've been around for 30 years. Some of these people are professionally performing for about 10 years. But, each one has a unique story. And I think that's really what, we want to give that opportunity of just different experiences, because that's the music business. Like any art form, it's quite varied. I mean, it's not just kind of one. People think of the musicians who come to the Sweetwater as being in the tuxedo, playing the violin or cello or piano, like, very formal. And many of them play many instruments, and they also play different genres. They're not just playing classical. They cross over to contemporary, to folk, to, Edwin does that. He actually, plays 2 or 3 genres, and he often brings them together. So, and that's partly what Sweetwater is about. It's about not just the one type of music. It's how you take a music form and reinvent it.
Well, I certainly having that up close and personal interaction with the musicians is not something you would experience in a live performance necessarily to the same extent. And I can't help but think that makes it very personal, especially if you're sitting in your living room or rec room and it's like they're part of your home and your environment, which is an amazing connection. They're not out there, they're here. And I can't help but think that's engaging. I think very, very engaging.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's a whole different experience. I mean, there are a lot of people who are our patrons who will say, well, it will never replace being, in the front row in Leith Church, which has some of the best acoustics anywhere, and many performers have said that. And so that's, we can't replicate that experience. But it is a new level of intimacy with these musicians. And I think that, there's a convenience factor because, again, a lot of us, I don't know about you, a lot of times I feel like I don't really want to bother going out tonight. But you do want to maybe have that deeper experience and just watching a rerun of, Seinfeld or something. I mean, not that I like Seinfeld too, but, it's just having those new experiences like this, I think is something a lot of people are looking for.
Last few minutes of our program, what would you like to profile that I haven't asked you or you haven't mentioned?
Well, I guess, just again, I would certainly recommend people go to our website, sweetwatermusicfestival.ca. Everything is there with Surreal. You can see some photos. We've got some videos up, some of the concerts, of course, that we had with the live concerts with people in person. We've got the Front Row, of course, and the Into Music podcasts are up there. We have an Into Music session next Thursday happening with Ashley Hoyer and William Coulter. Both very talented. One is a guitarist. She's a mandolin player. And she actually is quite popular on the folk circuit in the U.S. as well. Bill, he's played both classical guitar and also plays a lot of Celtic music. They're really interesting, and Edwin plays with them in a trio as well. So that's going to be a really fun experience. That's 4 p.m. Eastern. You got to register in advance before the end of the day on the 3rd.
I want to thank you for being on the program and congratulate you and your organization and all of the musicians and what they have done to rise to the challenge of COVID-19 and to share the music. So thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you to our viewing audience as well. Please tune in again to learn more about programs, resources, and services available to you and to your family. Take care. Stay safe.